The Google Nest Hub line of products are some of the most convenient but also annoying products out there. They're great for having a device you can ask questions to, control other devices, and even cast content to. When Google first announced its return to tablets, the Pixel tablet, I wasn't necessarily excited, but having owned the nesthubmax and a smaller Nest Hub, I saw an opportunity to potentially replace a product that worked about 90% of the time, but had one big flaw that made me want to look into the Pixel tablet even more. Today, we're going to be talking about whether this tablet is the one you should look into or if it's the one you should look past. If you've owned a Nest Hub or nesthubmax and tried to reach out to remove its display, then you'll surely love the design of the Pixel tablet. I really feel like Google had a seriously easy time designing this thing since it virtually looks the same as the two Nest Hubs I mentioned, especially since it comes with this dock. The tablet itself has a Gorilla Glass 3 front and an aluminum back panel with a sort of chalky texture I'm not particularly a fan of. This tablet, like I guess most other tablets, has a simple and straightforward design. The 11-inch display is enclosed by a bezel that's not too thick and not too thin, giving your fingers plenty of room to hold the tablet. It weighs 493 grams, which is good when holding it with two hands, but can become heavy with one hand use. On the back here, you have one camera, the Google G branding, and some pogo pins here that allow you to mount the tablet to its dock, while on the top of the tablet, you have your power button / fingerprint reader, a volume rocker, and two microphones. On the left side, you have two speakers, your charging port, and on the right side, you have two more speakers as well as another microphone. Finally, on the bottom, you have nothing but two rubber feet that work together with the separately sold standing case to give you stability when this tablet is propped up. The dock that comes with this tablet looks exactly the way I would have expected it to look if you were able to remove it from the Nest Hub. It's small, exceptionally light, and the best thing about this is that it has those magnetic points I mentioned before. They're all too easy to align the tablet with once you actually remember where they are. It feels really solid and has the same stitched fabric design as the speakers on the Nest Hub series. All in all, I think that the Pixel tablet, as well as this speaker, has a design that meets somewhere between premium and mid-range, but is leaning a little bit more towards the premium side of things. The display on this device is of the LCD variety. It's pretty much what you'd expect from a mid to high range LCD. Not too dark, but doesn't get that bright either with its 500 nit max brightness. There's also a more white cast over it due to the nature of the technology when compared to something like an OLED display. You can still definitely tell what color is what, but let it be known that this is not an AMOLED screen like I said. And if you like the punchiness of something like an AMOLED screen, this may not give that to you. If you are someone who does like LCDs, then I'd say that this is a pretty decent one and even better than what Samsung was using on their smaller tablets about 2 years ago. The display has a 2560 by 1600 resolution with a 16 by 10 aspect ratio, so it should be what most would be used to with this size of tablet. One choice I kind of thought was weird that Google went with, especially in this day and age, is the fact that they did not choose to go with a 120 Hz refresh rate for the display. 60 Hz is definitely what we've been using until 120 Hz became the norm, but I kind of wonder if it really would have made that much of a price difference for them to add it. Sure, it definitely increases battery use, but nonetheless, there's just something about having a smoother motion overall that makes operation just feel more decent and pleasant. The processor of choice in this tablet is the Google Tensor G2. I'm not really a performance snob, but there is definitely a baseline when it comes to using a device that I expect. And I can say, based on use, that this tablet is definitely above that baseline for normal everyday use. For those wanting high-end graphical performance, you might potentially have to temper your expectations. Unfortunately, I don't play games, but I can offer you this 3D test mark to simulate how a game might perform. As you can see here, the tablet mostly keeps a steady frame rate for its hardware, but seeing this makes me think that if something is more demanding, you'll probably get some significant slowdown somewhere, and maybe that's going to be okay for you. It all comes down to what you really expect out of a device when you are talking about graphical performance. I also feel like, rightfully so, that Google is not necessarily going for that high-end graphical performance, so much so as they are trying to get a device that meets a specific price. So again, temper your expectations. I don't think you'll be much worse off than most other mid-range tablets, but either way, this is still something that you may want to know. When talking about the audio experience of this whole package, you kind of have to do that in two separate spaces: the tablet speakers and the included speaker dock. The tablet speakers are actually pretty decent, maybe even more than decent, for being in something so small and affordable. You can definitely make out most of the instruments or general sounds played in any song, and none of them get severely washed out by the other. If you were hoping that the speaker dock had nesthub max quality, then you're going to be very disappointed here. I would say that the quality of this speaker is definitely closer to the smaller nesthub. This speaker dock definitely sounds pretty decent, and you can definitely hear all of the instruments in other parts of songs, but I'd definitely say it's lacking in quality, especially when it comes to bass. However, I'm pretty sure you will all need to hear these for yourself, so let's get right to the samples. Camera quality on mobile devices is either IGTJD or really good. And yes, that is an acronym that I kind of just made up in my head, and it stands for It Gets the Job Done, if you're wondering. You may have wondered also how the camera quality on this tablet fares, or rather the camera quality of both cameras, I guess. Well, I think that would be strictly up to you, of course, but in my opinion, it's definitely a IGTJD kind of thing, like most tablets are anyway. This camera setup is not one you would want to use to take professional photos, and that is basically true of any or most tablets on the market. But if you do need to take a picture, it at least will make out whatever you're taking a picture of, and I think the tablet would be good in that regard. Tablets just typically don't have big sensor sizes, and that's the trend that certainly continues here. But maybe we will see something that changes in the future. You might recall that I said in the beginning of this review that there was one huge flaw that made me want to change over to the Pixel tablet. I also stated that I used to own a nesthubmax, and I say used to own because I sold it immediately when I got this Pixel tablet. Why, you ask? Well, I'm not sure if I'm the only one who's experienced this, but the nesthubmax, or at least my nesthubmax, had a severe problem when it came to Bluetooth connectivity. What would happen is I'd be able to connect my Bluetooth headphones directly to it at some points, and then anytime after that, the nesthubmax would never connect to any Bluetooth devices again unless I unplugged it for a few days. And Google pretty much refuses to fix it, at least to my knowledge at this point. Fortunately, the Pixel tablet has connected directly to my Bluetooth headphones 100% reliably. It's so reliable that the minute I turn on my headphones, it will grab the connection even before my Tab S8 Ultra does. That connection is extremely stable, as is the Wi-Fi 6 connectivity inside of this tablet. Since Google didn't go all out on the hardware in this tablet, I expected battery life to be at least decent, and I can say that yes, it is at least decent. In order to get to this decent battery result, I did 3 battery drainage tests to simulate what people might do in a day. The first one consisted of me playing videos from YouTube at 4K resolution on the highest brightness possible, and after 30 minutes I was left with 94% from 100. The second test I performed was using the same test I did when I was testing out the tablet's graphical performance. After this test was done, after that 20 minutes of course, I was left with 85%, which is a 9% drop from the 94% I was at. Now, luckily my wife has an 11-inch tablet that she didn't mind letting me borrow. Shoutouts to my wife, who is the love of my life. So I was able to do a third test using the same extreme graphics test, and I did this on her Tab S7 and the Pixel tablet. Unfortunately, I forgot to charge the Tab S7 to 100%, so I was at 97. But you can see here that only 9% of the battery life was used, as opposed to the Pixel tablet, which used 6%. Keep in mind, the Tab S7 is 2 years old at this point. To test out the charging capabilities, I charged the tablet using the included dock first, since that's pretty much the only way to charge it right out of the box. And then I charged it using a 25-watt charger I had laying around from one of my Samsung devices. When I did the dock charging test, the tablet was at 43%, and after 30 minutes of charging, it had gone up to 61%, which is an 18% increase. When charging with the 25-watt charger from that 61%, for the same 30 minutes, the charge had gone up to 86%, which is a 25% increase. As you can see here, wired charging is definitely the superior way to go when charging this tablet, and that's to be expected. I'm glad that Google gives you a way to charge the tablet instead of just giving you a cable, but I do kind of wonder if including a cable as well as a charging brick would have put that cost over so significantly. One more important thing to know about the dock is that even though it does come included in the box and is the only way you can charge the tablet, it will not charge the tablet fully unless you actually tell it to. Google has implemented an overcharge protection feature that only allows the tablet to charge up to 90%, I guess for people like me who will have this on the dock most of the time. Like I said, you can definitely turn it off, but you'd have to do so every single time you put it onto the dock. and there doesn't seem to be a way to do so permanently, or at least I haven't looked into it. Now, I could actually spend the last part of this review talking to you about the Android 14 OS on here, but honestly, I don't think that would do anybody any good, and I personally find stock Android to be very boring anyway. What I will talk about is the Google Assistant and Google Nest Hub experience you get, since I've been pretty much alluding to that anyway. The Google Assistant experience on here is one that is kind of hit or miss, but more hit in a sense. I find that the Assistant doesn't respond in areas that are overly filled with lots of loud sounds, which is unfortunate, especially coming from the excellent and responsive experience you get with the Nest Hub. This tablet can definitely hear you when you say, but in order for it to listen, you'll almost always need to be in a quiet room. My Pixel tablet stays in my kitchen since it replaced the Nesthub Max I had. Most of the times when I'm using it, I'm doing so when I'm washing dishes, which is obviously going to create a lot of noise. I found that when I was using the Nest Hub, it would always hear me no matter when or what I was doing, but it doesn't seem as if Google put the same microphones that the device has on the Pixel tablet, and thus, this is why you'll need to be in a more quiet place, I feel like. As far as the Google Home app experience, this is pretty much the same as you'd get on an actual tablet or phone. It consists of going directly inside of the Google Home app in order to manipulate any of the devices within your home. You can also kind of get a Nest Hub experience on the lock screen by tapping and pressing this icon here on the bottom left. Google did add a hub mode, which makes it so that once you dock the tablet, it shows you the same or very similar kind of home screen you'd get if you actually had a Nest Hub product. You can even go ahead and choose your screensaver, your at a glance settings, your lock screen, your Google Cast settings. Yes, that's right. You can actually use this tablet to cast content onto it as if you were using a Google Chromecast. But the point here is that you still do have the hub functionality, with the only difference being is that it's more of an extra function rather than the whole experience. Now, it's definitely a nice feature, and it does mostly nail the simplicity you get with a Nest Hub product. However, there's one small, tiny little detail that I found sort of weird in a sense. The hub mode pretty much runs on top of the OS, much like that app your grandparents downloaded that put some kind of funky advertisement on the lock screen that you now have to search for and find out exactly what that app is. No, I'm not saying it's the same exact thing with the Pixel tablet, of course. I'm just saying that's how the tablet feels to me when it's docked and switches over to hub mode. Essentially, to get into the tablet, what you'll need to do is tap on the screen while it's in hub mode. Then you'll have to get past the lock screen. Fortunately, this is not an issue if you happen to use the fingerprint reader all the time, as it will take you directly to the home screen, but I just thought that this whole setup was kind of weird, and that Google didn't just allow hub mode to transform the lock screen instead of running on top of it. Again though, I said this is just kind of a tiny little detail I noticed, but something I thought I might share either way. To kind of summarize the Pixel tablet, I can say that it is definitely not a perfect product, and I think this is something that Google knows. It definitely has its pros and cons, but I think that there are mostly pros here, and that it does a decent job of giving you a device that isn't going to break the bank while giving you the functionality you've come to love from the Nest Hub series of products. It truly is 90% tablet and 10% Nest Hub, in my opinion. There are definitely tablets out there in the same price range that will give you more, but to my knowledge, there's nothing out there that will give you a decent mid-range tablet, the functionality of a Nest Hub product, and the ability to cast content directly to this tablet. It truly is a combining of all of what Google has to offer in the Nest Hub series and what they've learned in the tablet space. In my case, I treat it as an extra tablet if I need it, but mostly a Nest Hub that allows me to consume content while I wash the dishes. But if I decide to continue watching that content on it, I can now remove that screen And that does create value for me over just having a device that appears to be a tablet, but it's really just a big display with a simple operating system to ask questions to and control devices in my house. Okay, so hopefully that wasn't too confusing of a statement to make, but I do hope that you have learned something within this Pixel tablet review. And I would like to know in the comments, what do you think about the Pixel tablet? Is it something that you've been looking into? Is it something you want to get? Is it something you want to pass? Just anything really on that. But of course, as always, wherever you are in the world, have a great day, a great afternoon, a great evening, or a great night, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.